Before we get into the speakers, let me recognize several elected officials who are joining us today and a community leader. First, let me recognize from South San Francisco Unified School District President Maurice Goodman. Thank you, Maurice, for being with us. I also want to recognize Superintendent Alejandro Hogan from South San Francisco Unified School District. And I also want to recognize, and he'll be saying some brief words from the City of San Bruno. Let me take the opportunity to recognize Ken Ibarra. Ken, thanks for being here. And additionally, let me thank Rick Oxenhurst for joining us. And then let me thank the Juliana's Journey for being here. You know, so I want to recognize, first, let me recognize Patricia Watson. Patricia has been, I guess she's come into my life 4 or 5 months ago. And Patricia has really been a champion around this issue. She's worked with elected officials. State Senate just passed a resolution, I believe, several weeks ago or last week. And so this is a big issue for many, many people. And so with that, let me turn it over to Patricia. And then what we'll do is we will talk with those who work directly in the field from UCSF. Patricia?
Thank you, Mayor Canova. I appreciate that introduction. And again, I would like to thank all of the people who have decided to participate today. It is an absolute honor to have you here. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Patricia Watson. I am the founder of Juliana's Journey Foundation. It is a 501c3 organization that myself and my husband, Jesus Pena, and I formed in honor of our daughter, Juliana, who lost her life to relapse stage 3 neuroblastoma cancer, which is a rare pediatric cancer, at the age of 2.5. And when our daughter was taking her final breaths, we promised her that we would continue her fight, that her fight did not end that day, and that is exactly what we are doing. As Mayor Canepa said, Senator Jerry Hill just passed Senate Concurrent Resolution number 133 unanimously. The vote was 36-0, honoring and declaring September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the entire state of California, as well as certain cities, including Daly City, South San Francisco, and San Bruno, who have also followed suit. So Juliana's Journey Foundation has collaborated with renowned Dr. Catherine Mathey and Dr. Gustafson, who are making tons of, they're just putting their heart and their souls into trying to find better, less toxic, more effective treatments for neuroblastoma, because neuroblastoma has a very, very low cure rate. And if the neuroblastoma relapses, the chance of the child surviving is also extremely low, which we obviously experienced with our daughter in person. So we have also collaborated with them to try to raise funds for a clinical trial that they are working on right now. And I will let them speak about that in a little more detail. But awareness is the key. Funding comes with awareness, and cures come with funding. So our main goal of our foundation is to establish awareness everywhere across the country, because not enough people know that kids do get cancer too, and that kids do die from cancer. It's not just adults. They need more funding. They need more awareness. They need the public to talk about it, to accept that this does happen, and to actually do something about it. We ask for people to be proactive, which is what we're trying to do in the light of something as traumatic as losing a child. We have made it our life's work to make sure that our daughter's legacy and her story carries on, and we are obviously fighting for her. We are also fighting for the thousands of kids affected by childhood cancer to this day. So I would like to turn it over to Dr. Mathey.
Thank you, Patricia. Your work is wonderful. I'm really excited about Cancer Awareness Month. 12,000 children each year in North America are diagnosed with cancer, and many of those children will die despite the tremendous advances that have been made in the 30 or so years I've been working in this area. And neuroblastoma is one of the toughest nuts to crack that we've had. As you've heard, it's the 3rd most common cancer that children get. It's a nerve cancer that develops next to the spine or in the abdomen or chest in very young children. So children that don't have a chance to live their whole life because they're diagnosed often before age 2, And in half of these children, the cancer has spread throughout their bones and bone marrow before it's even discovered. So Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is really important because we need more research. I've seen the fruit of this research since I came to UCSF in 1977, when children with neuroblastoma had less than 10% chance of surviving their disease. Now, children who present with widespread disease, about 30% or 40% will live 5 years, but even that does not guarantee complete life. So these advances have been made through research and more recently through targeting the cancer, finding specific abnormalities that are in the cancer and not normal cells. So what our goal is, Dr. Gustafson is one of the brilliant young scientists at UCSF who has devoted all of his research to finding the Achilles heel in neuroblastoma that we can target. And we're trying to combine a targeted radiation, a kind of radiation that's delivered through the bloodstream and goes right to the neuroblastoma cell, and make that even more effective by combining it with medicine that will target molecular abnormalities within the tumor cell. And I'll let Clay tell you a little bit about that, because Patricia Watson and Juliana's journey has been really helping to support this research, which we hope to take into a clinical trial in children.
So one of the most important aspects of what we're doing is trying to reduce the toxicity that we induce in children when our current therapies are highly toxic. And if we can reduce that toxicity a little bit by combining a couple of highly targeted therapies like MIBG, the targeted radiotherapy, along with a molecular targeted therapy that induces this sort of Achilles heel. So if we make neuroblastoma cells highly sensitive to radiation therapy with a targeted therapy, we can actually very specifically kill neuroblastoma cells. We're looking at other kinds of Achilles heels in a similar way. If you can hit from 2 different directions at the same time in a very focused manner, we're hoping to be able to destroy the disease before it spreads even further. And I just want to also make sure I thank Juliana's journey and Patricia for all the good work that you have done. It's immensely helpful for us to be able to do this work. Thanks.
Now, to say a couple words, I'm going to ask Ken Ibarra from the city of San Bruno. Ken?
Good morning. I have a prepared statement because I want to make sure I say everything I wanted to say. Thank you, Mayor, for having this, and thank you, Patricia, for all that you're doing, and also Jesus. I'm honored to be asked to be part of this morning's official kickoff, and I stand here as an elected official and someone like many of us who've lost numerous friends and family to cancer. I've been an active supporter of the American Cancer Society since my father died of stomach cancer 18 years ago. And even then, I had been affected by cancer, losing my stepmother to breast cancer 12 years prior. She was only 42 years old. I'm currently the event chair for Relay for Life San Bruno, helping raise over $80,000 this year for cancer research and programs. However, I'm here today because a little girl, a baby girl, stole my heart 2.5 years ago. I met Juliana on Facebook and followed her fight against cancer. Because she and her family were South San Francisco residents, it truly hit close to home, and I followed daily. Unfortunately, I was never able to meet Juliana. She ended her fight only a few months later. I was heartbroken. I attended her memorial and became more active in the events her family and friends organized in her honor. I am amazed that in this last 2 years, the legacy of Juliana lives on through her foundation, led by her parents, Patricia and Jesus. I stand here committed as ever to support them and help the efforts to bring childhood cancer awareness to the levels of breast cancer awareness. And I know it's a long fight, but along the way, it will truly make a difference in battling those cancers that take our babies and youngsters. Juliana still holds my heart. I will never forget her, and I will never stop fighting for her. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. I do want to recognize a colleague of mine, a good friend, who's really sort of championed this issue, and that's Ray Buenaventura, who's on the City Council in Daly City. Thank you, Ray. Thank you. You know, on behalf of the City of Daly City, it's a special day for us, a special day because we recognize the significance of your work, Patricia, recognize the significance of the Juliana's Journeys teamwork. And so I'd like you to come up here. We'd like to present to you this proclamation declaring it Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I think Councilmember Ibarra also has one for you. I just wanted to, as well as maybe you want to come up here, Mr. Goodman, from the South San Francisco Unified School District, and I just want to read a couple whereas clauses that I think are significant for the press. It says, whereas childhood cancer spares no one affecting kids from every socioeconomic background, whereas cancer kills more children than asthma, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, congenital anomalies, and pediatric AIDS combined, and whereas childhood cancer research only receives approximately 3.8% of government funding, with 9% delegated towards adult cancer. Let me thank the doctors from UCSF for really enlightening us in the process. Research is changing, I'm sure, a lot, but your sort of summary of how you're addressing this issue technically gives us a lot of encouragement, and so thank you for your work in that area. Whereas Juliana's Journey Foundation is on a mission to bring awareness of neuroblastoma and childhood cancer by having elected officials and municipalities recognize September. This is an entry for you to sort of explain. September is Childhood Cancer Month for Going Gold. What's Going Gold?
So for those of you who don't know, and I actually explained this to council members in San Bruno, the reason why gold was chosen as the childhood cancer awareness ribbon is because gold is a precious metal and children are precious. So I thought it was very fitting when I learned that when we were actually researching what color the ribbon was for childhood cancer awareness. So as you can see, a lot of us are wearing gold ribbons every day. My husband and I, and also with our board members, we always try to wear something gold, something that represents childhood cancer awareness. And right now, childhood cancer awareness is trending very, very quickly, but we don't want it to be a temporary trend. We don't only want it to be in September. We want it to be the other 11 months as well. And we want this to last forever. So we are one of many other organizations that are trying to bring awareness of childhood cancer, but we intend on being a front runner someday soon. And with the help of all of the people here and with the assistance and the collaboration with the UCSF physicians, we will make that happen. And that is a promise.
And so we want to present this to you as a small token of our appreciation. I'd like to have the elected officials and superintendent come up here, as well as the folks from UCSF. If you wouldn't mind coming up here. And we want to present this to you, Councilmember Ibarra, as a small token of our appreciation and the work that you've done. So at this time, what we will now do is we'll take a couple questions. Are there any questions from the press?
I have one for the doctors. And this is when you spoke about the radiation and the toxicity of it. I've been a cancer patient and I've gone through that. So is that one of the primary concerns or your patients have when it comes to treatment?
Well, both the chemotherapy and
Yes.
the radiation will cause infertility and also sometimes lead to even other cancers 20
Okay.
years later if they do survive. So there are still some things we don't know about all our treatments. We're using a new form of radiation called MIBG, which is a chemical that targets the neuroblastoma cell, and it brings a radioactive iodine molecule to the cancer. So it has less toxicity than external radiation,
Right.
but it still has some. It's still radiation, and we all know
Yes.
if you're healthy, radiation isn't good for you. but it's even harder on the cancer, and that's why we use it.
Thank you.
Great question. Are there any more questions? Great. Well, you're free to, yes.
Mr. Town Daily Reporter, how many the patients about the percent is the Asian? How many percent is the Asian?
So the question is, do we have any sense of how many of the folks afflicted are of Asian descent?
I think it depends on what area of the country you're in. Here, obviously, we have many, many Asian patients. It does not particularly afflict Asians or not, but what we do know is that with certain childhood cancers, the genetic makeup of Asians and sometimes of Hispanic groups makes them more susceptible to having a more advanced cancer. And we don't really know why that is. It's probably just part of the gene pool that comes down. But yes, we treat many Asian patients with neuroblastoma as well as with leukemia and other disorders.
Are there any more
Not
questions?
spared.
Yes.
I have a question. If the government is funding childhood cancer, why is it so important to get funding from other sources?
Clay, would you like to address that?
The
Researcher.
current funding environment actually from the government is actually very poor with all the recent budget cuts that have gone on with the sequester and everything else. It's actually quite challenging to get a grant from the government, and childhood cancer is only a small part of that, as we've already been discussing. And so private foundations are actually what makes up the difference for that for us. And so that's what's keeping science alive, keeping research for pediatric cancer alive.
Just as an example, my organization to test new therapies in children with neuroblastoma, which has been funded by the National Cancer Institute for 15 years, it has been funded, but the funding has never increased. And you know how much inflation has changed over 15 years. And in fact, they have cut the budget so that when we started, they funded all of our work, and now they fund only 40% of the work we do. The rest is covered by foundations. And young scientists like Clay, he's been unusually successful in getting grants from the government. But when I started, they would fund 25% of the applicants with laboratory research grants. Now it's less than 8% in the National Cancer Institute. So it's very hard for young, very bright PhD investigators to get started, and many people have stopped going into cancer research because they're afraid they won't be able to get funding to do the work. So it's a real challenge to find support for these people, and that's why we were talking about the American Cancer Society, and if we could get them to support more of the young researchers in pediatric cancer, it would be very important.
Are there any more questions? With that, let me thank you for covering this, and let me thank UCSF. Let me thank you, Patricia, for really shedding light on an issue that deserves everyone's attention. So with that, thank you very much, folks.
Thanks. Thank you so much for your support here.